Hello, everyone. I sincerely hope that you have been finding all of the titles that I have been posting helpful. But what I really hope is that you've had time to read at least one of the books. That would make my heart full. Today, I'm going to be reading another book that everyone remembers year after year after year after year. This is a book by Jacqueline Woodson. Again, that's Jacqueline Woodson, and she is another amazing author. This book is a romance novel. So, for those of you that have been waiting for a beautiful love story that would stay with you forever, this one is it. This book is called If You Come Softly. And when I tell you, it's a love story for everyone, it is not just a teen read, but it is definitely memorable. And you will get caught up and you're going to cry. So get ready. In the meanwhile, though, I am going to read an excerpt. As always, I will put a link to the author's page and a link to purchase the book in the description. And as I read along, please like, share, subscribe, all of those good things so that we can get our viewership up. If you're finding this page helpful, I am so happy that it is serving its purpose. But anyway, I'm not going to keep you waiting. This book, again, is called If You Come Softly, and it is by Jacqueline Woodson. Jeremiah was black. He could feel it. The way the sun pressed down hard and hot on his skin in the summer. Sometimes it felt like he sweated black beads of oil. He felt warm inside his skin, protected. And in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, where everyone seemed to be some shade of black, he felt good walking through the neighborhood. But one step outside, just one step, and somehow the weight of his skin seemed to change. It got heavier. Light skinned brothers. Well, yeah, sometimes he caught himself making fun of them, but everybody laughed. Everybody ragged on everybody. These same brothers, shoot, they be getting on him just as hard. His homeboy, Carlton, messed up name, mama's white and daddy's black, but he swears he's all black. Some days they'd be shooting hoops and Carlton just start going off on how black Jeremiah was. Nothing mean in it. It was all just the way they acted around each other. Sometimes they got to laughing so hard, tears would be running down their faces, laughing and pointing and trying to come up with something else funny to say. It was like that. When Jeremiah and his boys were hanging out, he just was. The way they all were. Some light skinned, some dark skinned, nappy headed, curly headed, even a couple bald headed brothers just hanging out and laughing. Those times he felt free, like he was free inside his dark skin, like he could celebrate it, throw his arms way out and grin. Sometimes he'd remember his grandma, a long time ago, before the cancer took her, the way she'd make him sit in the shade. Don't want you to get too black, she'd say. He was little then, and going back and forth between down south and Brooklyn. He didn't know anything back then. Back then, it was just his mama and daddy kissing him goodbye at the airport. Mama holding his hand so tight and for so long that he got embarrassed. Then some stewardess taking his hand and sitting him right up front where she could keep a good eye on him, like his mama had asked her to do. He remembered airplane wings, a pair of silver ones that a pilot gave him, and his first whole meal on on a little white plastic dish. There was always cake on the plane, real sweet cake, the kind his mama never let him eat at home. And then he'd fall asleep, and he'd be down south, and his grandma would be there waiting, already crying. She always cried when she saw him, cried and laughed all at once. Jeremiah smiled, remembering how he used to sink into her heavy arms and be surrounded by the smell of her rose petal lotion. That was a long time ago. Jeremiah palmed his basketball in his left hand and held it straight out in front of him. He stared at it a moment, then dribbled it 3 quick times against the curb. He wished his grandmother was alive so he could tell her that it wasn't a bad thing, that you couldn't get too black. He remembered the time his father had taken him to see a film about the Black Panthers, all those afros and fists raised in the air. Jeremiah smiled. He wished his grandmother had heard them shouting, "Black is beautiful." But she hadn't. And she had believed what she said, that a person could get too black, the same way his father believed it every time he said, "Maya, you're a black man. You're a warrior." But where was the fight? He used to wonder. Where was the war? Later on, when Jeremiah saw a cartoon about a monkey playing basketball, he felt ashamed. Like that monkey was supposed to be him somehow, and he knew then that war was all around him. It was people and commercials trying to make him feel like he didn't even matter, trying to make him feel like there was something wrong with being black. And now, on the basketball court, he always felt how black he was. It seemed as though he left his body and jogged over to the sidelines to watch himself, like he saw the quads flexing under his dark thighs, saw his long brown arms reaching out for the ball, the way his calves moved as he flew down the court. He hated that he was going to be playing ball for Percy Academy. No, it wasn't the game he hated. He loved that. He always loved that. Couldn't remember a time he didn't love the feel of the ball against his palms. But he hated that he would be playing for Percy. White, bright Percy. At preseason practice, he'd look up sometimes and see all those white faces surrounding him. Yeah, there was Rayshawn and Kennedy. They were black. Different, though. Rayshawn and Kennedy came from a different world. Yeah, they slapped each other five and gave each other looks when other teammates said something stupid. But at night, they went home to different worlds. Kennedy lived in the Albany houses out in Brownville. Ray Sean lived in Harlem. Jeremiah frowned. He didn't want to be a snob. I've been around the world, he thought. I've been to India and Mauritius and Mexico. I'm different because of it. Different from them. Different from a lot of people, black and white. And he knew what was coming this winter. His first season on the team. He'd look out at the stands and see more white faces, hundreds of them, cheering him and Percy Academy on. It seemed wrong, cliche somehow. Why couldn't he have loved tennis? Why hadn't someone stuck a racket or a golf club in his hand? Not like there was a golf course or a tennis course anywhere near him. Well, Fort Greene Park had courts, but you needed a permit and a partner. Basically, you needed to know something about the game before you could get it together to go there and play. And when he was real little, no one was making a running leap for the tennis courts, but there was always some ball being played somewhere. A group of guys getting together in the park, someone setting an empty trash can on the curb for free throws, a fire escape ladder hanging down from somewhere with the rung space just far enough for a basketball to fit through. Jeremiah set the ball on the ground and stared at the back of his hand, at the place around his knuckles where the skin was darker than the rest of it. When he was little, his mama would always say, "Where's my beautiful brown eyed black baby child?" And he'd go running to her. "Right here," he'd scream as she lifted him up high above her. People were always telling him what beautiful eyes he had, even strangers, girls mostly. His eyes were light brown, almost green. He thought, had always thought, they looked strange against his dark skin. Sometimes he stared at himself in the mirror and wondered whether or not he was good looking. Yeah, he knew girls checked him out all the time, but the pickings were slim in Fort Greene, so they were probably just feeling desperate. Black is beautiful. Don't get too black. Black monkey, where is my beautiful black baby child? You're a black man. You're a warrior." Jeremiah sighed and stared out over the block. All the things people had always said to him, yeah, he'd heard them again and again. But sometimes, looking in the mirror, he had no idea who he was or why he was in this world. And now, on top of everything, he had met a girl. And that's a wrap on If You Come Softly. What I didn't mention before is that this story is told in perspective. So you get a little bit of background information on one of the main characters, and the story goes back and forth between both main characters. So you get both perspectives. And what you're going to find is one of the best love stories since Edward and Bella. Like, I mean, the I could see the fields from Twilight in this story. So I don't know which story comes first. I don't know if Twilight came before If You Come Softly or If You Came Softly came before Twilight. I know If You Came Softly came before Twilight. However, what I'm going to say is that the story is beautiful. So check it out. Again, I'm going to leave the link to the author's page in the description, as well as a link to purchase the book. If you love this book, please check out other titles by Jacqueline Woodson. And as always, here's hoping you get lost in a world of books. Talk to you soon.